Hi, welcome to PlanStrongerTV. I'm your host, David Holland. On today's program, we're going to talk about women and their money. Guys, we're just along for the ride. So, joining me will be Kathleen Rehl, a certified financial planner who specializes in helping women with their finances. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Women and their money. It's their money, or likely to be. Statistics show that some 70% of women will die a widow, which means their spouse has already passed on, which means she's got all the money, okay? So it's likely to be hers. So women, if you're not involved in your finances, you got to be. And I'm not talking about writing the check to the telephone company. I'm talking about actively engaged in the financial planning, working with the advisor, knowing where all the money is, what the plans are. Very important. We're going to dig into this with real, personal stories. People that have gone through this. One, Kathleen Rehl. She is a certified financial planner and for 2 decades worked with women after her own early death of her husband, and she became a widow. She really focused on this area. And one of her clients, Liz Hobert, who she had worked with, Kathleen had worked with Liz and her husband for a 10-year period before he died. And so that journey for both of them is very inspiring. It's revealing about the things that need to be done before something happens, the things that need to be done after something happens, and the things to do along the way where you are careful about the decisions you make, but also careful about the preparations you make so that when those times come, when people are faced with these situations, they can make smart decisions and resist maybe well-intended advice, but advice that's not appropriate at the time. So we're going to dig into this. I think you're going to find this very helpful and inspiring for women to be more involved, know where all the money is, and to be engaged. And men, she will be happier if she knows where everything is. Trust me. Stay right there. Hi, welcome back. So we're going to continue our conversation about women, finances, couples, their relationships, and I'm very excited to bring in a returning guest and a new guest. So you're not seeing double. I have 2 guests in the studio with us today. Kathleen Rehl is back. She's a certified financial planner and a certified financial transitionalist and a Ph.D. So welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Glad
to have you. And Liz Hobert is also our guest today. Liz, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So we're going to share with our viewers why you're both here. So you're like, am I seeing double, David? So I had Kathleen on a program, and we decided to have her come back and talk more about what she does and the work she's done with widows, and also have Liz talk about her relationship with Kathleen and the importance of the role between a woman and the advisor, especially if their husband predeceases them, which statistically we talked about, Kathleen, on a previous program. The statistics are shocking.
70% of all wives are going to experience widowhood during their lifetime.
And the other way around.
And when you look at it, it's even more so. It's 80% of all men die married. But 80% of all women are going to die alone, either widowed, divorced, or they never were married.
So, Liz, that's why we were so glad you could be with us. I know that you have had a long-term relationship working with Kathleen. Now, for our viewers, Kathleen doesn't practice as a financial planner anymore, but she did for almost 2 decades, and included in her clients was Liz. So we wanted to talk about that relationship you had. So when you first met Kathleen, you were married at the time.
I was.
Okay. And so you and your husband became clients of Kathleen's together.
Exactly. For 10 years, We worked with Kathleen, and we were privileged.
In fact, Liz, I still remember, you came and you guys checked me out. I was doing a presentation.
We did.
And you asked so many questions.
Well, we had heard she was good, and we knew we needed a financial planner. Our finances, we had pensions, both my husband and myself. My dad sold life insurance. We had lots of life insurance. And my sister was a stockbroker. But nobody would put us together.
Yeah.
And we had heard Kathleen did comprehensive planning. So yes, we did check her out to
All right,
see.
so number one tip to our viewers, interview and check out the advisor before you hire them.
Yes,
All right, so that's tip number one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And tip number 2 is to do it and to not waste time. I'm really thankful. We worked with Kathleen for 10 years before my husband's death. So when he died, I knew what our finances were as well as he did. And I knew that I was okay. In fact, within 24 hours after Bruce died, Kathleen called and she said, Liz, and I remember exactly, she said, Liz, I just want you to know you're going to be okay. And you're going to be okay financially. And the next 6 months, just take care of yourself.
Right.
And I'll help you know what needs to be taken care of.
Because there's a lot of non-financial stuff, right?
Yes.
It's not all about the money, even if they say it is. There is the emotional, all the transition, all of the family and friends, and just so many things going on.
Exactly.
To know that the finances are taken care of, big load off your mind.
It was huge. It was huge. And she helped me handle some life insurance that I needed to take care of. But I didn't feel like I was alone in doing that, which was incredibly important.
And I knew one of the reasons that I reached out to you. I mean, Liz is an extremely smart woman. She's, before she retired, an executive. But I knew that the impact of grief and on the thinking processes and the emotional, that I wanted to reach out and know that I was there to walk along this path.
Well, and you'd walked the path before, just to remind our viewers that you went through this yourself and were widowed at, was it 59, 60 years of age?
Just about it was 2 months after, no, it was a month after my 60th birthday.
Okay.
And that's the average age that a wife experiences widowhood is 59 and a half.
So you had already walked the path, but the difference is you had, of course, the financial background, being a financial planner, and you still had a period of time where I'll bet you didn't make any big financial decisions either.
Oh, and believe it or not, I experienced feeling like a bag lady. It was,
Wow.
and this is not unusual for widows, and this was, granted, I felt like a bag lady about this long.
But still.
Because my husband's Social Security check, that wasn't coming in anymore. His small pastor's pension, I was going to continue to get that, but it was going to be even smaller. And then our business, he was doing that together. I didn't know if I could continue on with that business. But I put my financial planning hat back on. I ran my numbers. I talked to my own financial advisor, and I've got my own advisor too, because a doctor doesn't do her own surgery. But I knew I was going to be okay, at least financially.
So tip number 2 for our viewers, if you feel like a bag lady, guess what? Financial planners do too. So ironic that even with all that knowledge and pre-planning, there's still those feelings of isolation and desperation and stress, and I only can imagine. So a lot of people, a lot of women are not involved with their finances, Liz. So, I need you to help me tell them how important it is that they know about their finances. What if you have a husband and wife and let's just say that the husband takes care of the finances and have not done what the two of you did before Liz's husband passed away? I mean, you worked together for a decade. What about the women who are not involved?
I think that they're really in a precarious situation because many of them will lose their husbands, and then they have to be able to handle the finances. They can't get away from it. They have to live.
Right.
And that's a frightening thing. There's enough to deal with, when you lose a spouse. And so I think just to get that taken care
Speak
of.
up. I mean, they need to speak up, right?
Yes, they need
to say, look, this is something you need to take care of. And how do you you're both women. You tell me how to do this. How does a woman not step on the toes of the man saying, look, I want to be involved, and not have him feel like it's not about whether you trust him or his ability. You're not saying, hey, you're not doing a good job, I want to get involved. How does a woman say, look, I need to be involved?
Oh, guys love to be, when your wife says to you, honey, will you help me with something? Don't you just, oh, yes, that'll be good.
She watches the program, by the way, so of course I'd love to help her.
So you might say, honey, can you help me understand this statement? I don't get, what are they talking about over here? Can you help me with this? And that might be asking for help.
So play to his ego. Let's be honest. So, but I think the key point is to insist.
Yes.
So if you're not involved, women watching the program, get involved. And that can't happen soon enough because we just don't know. Now, some guys get it. A lot do. Let's not be, make it out like, all men try to keep women out of the finances. And ironically, what's interesting you'll both find is a lot of times I've had women who are more involved in the finances and the guys aren't.
Can I tell you?
And you want to? Go ahead.
I think when you and Bruce first came to me, it was this lady. And I had worked with a lot of clergy couples. And oftentimes, the pastor husband is like, oh, the Lord's going to take care of everything. We're going to be just fine. And the wife is saying, well, the Lord has given us Kathleen to work with, and we got to get our ducks in order and plan for retirement. But oftentimes, the women were more on top of it than the guys were. Yeah. But if you look at statistics, and I'm a big stat girl.
Sure.
It oftentimes is a division of labor. The wife may know more of the household expenses and those kinds of things, and the husband has got a more global picture of where all the investments are.
All right, so get involved and be involved and push a little bit. However you get there, whatever it takes to get involved.
Yes.
Now, how about, Liz, with your own personal journey and working with Kathleen, how about for your experience when your husband passed? How about that period of time, Kathleen spoke to this, that maybe 6 months or whatever it is, maybe a woman's watching this program and she has recently experienced the loss of her husband. What do you say to those women who are in that transitional phase?
I would say, first of all, the advice that was the most helpful for me, and it's so simple, is just to take one step at a time. Take the next step you know to do. If you don't have a financial planner, find someone you trust is the obvious early step because you really do need help, probably. But I think in overall handling life, just take the next step you know to take as it comes, and don't look too far into the future. Just next step, next step, next step. And over time, the sorrow and the anguish diminishes, and you're able to see life again more fully and more wholly. And then as time goes by, your heart heals somewhat. It's never the same. You have beautiful memories and much to be thankful for, at least I do. But you're able to see life unfolding and that there is a future.
We had talked about those, like the 3 stages of widowhood.
Yes, in fact, you showed me a slide you use in your presentations, and it said the first 6 months, just take care of yourself. So, and then
that was the intense grief.
Yes. And the next year to year and a half, take care of business, do the decisions you have to do.
That's the growth phase.
Yes. And then about 2.5 years, your new identity will start to emerge, and you'll start to feel whole again, and find a new future.
I like to call that grace. Some people prefer to call it the transformational period. And and Liz and I never say to a widow, oh, we know exactly where you are on your journey, because it's individual. It depends on so many different circumstances.
But the advice is sound, and it applies to every woman and every man who becomes a widower. This is not a one-sided deal, that they need time to take care of themselves. And I can speak to, from personal experience working with widows and widowers, that most financial decisions do not need to be made quickly, because you need time to get your head on straight.
Especially if they're irrevocable decisions, like investing in a product that maybe they don't even understand.
Exactly.
And then 2 months down the road, they think, oh my gosh, I needed that money for some house repairs. I needed that money to pay off some medical bills that haven't, we didn't realize are there. And then they asked for their money back, and they found out, oh no, this is all locked up. You can't get out of this product for now, because they rushed. They went too fast.
And I know the other thing that you've spoken about, Kathleen, as well, is the importance of being careful with family and friends. I imagine, Liz, you had a lot of people want to help. Now, you already had a financial plan and a financial advisor, but a lot of friends, what I've seen sometimes is with widows that their friends and family all kind of swoop in and I've got a guy or I've got this person you need to work with and they'll take care of everything. It's like, whoa, 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 slow down. You feel a lot of pressure, especially when it comes to family.
And I do think one of the gifts of working with Kathleen was I could just say I have a financial planner, a comprehensive financial planner who's helping me with these things, and I'm quite confident that I'm in a good place. Now, please talk to me. You know, my heart certainly needs that, and there are things that are meaningful, but the finances, I'm in good shape.
Well, I know in Kathleen, in your book, Moving Forward on Your Own, a financial guide for widows, that you spoke to friends and family that want to be involved. Ask them to come with you, ask them to participate maybe in meeting with a financial advisor, especially, Liz, your recommendation about if you don't have a financial planner, interviewing them. That's where family and friends can be that extra set of eyes and ears to help you evaluate who you're going to work with if you hadn't worked with one before.
Because sometimes in that early phase, a widow can leave and she will remember maybe one or two things, but she's forgotten. But that friend or family member can take notes. And in some of the workshops that I do, I train widows. I said, stand in front of a mirror and practice saying this statement. That's an interesting idea. I'll take it into consideration. Right now, it's way too early in the process for me to make. I'm talking with my advisor about what my overall goals are. But thank you for the suggestion. I'll take that into consideration.
Everybody means well. They want to help, but it's like, okay, it's like, you know, ease up here. It's okay. And family, too. You know, kids want to help, other family members. So it's, you know, it's good to take your time.
One of the things that helped me most from friends and family was when they talked about Tom and things that they remembered about him and what a difference he'd made in their life. That made much more, was more helpful for me than trying to give me other advice.
Sure. Well, and as a financial planner, you didn't really need a lot of financial advice. And Liz, having a financial planner relationship, I can tell both of you one of the things that's most rewarding about my work is when both members of the couple relationship are engaged, involved, want to be there, and you'll love this. I had a gentleman one time that was the most, I've had a couple of these, but I've had one that was the most do-it-yourselfer you ever saw. I mean, just totally do-it-yourselfer. But he knew something was going on with him. And he brought his wife in. They opened up a small account to establish a relationship. And he was very upfront. He's like, look, let's set this up and start with this. I'm going to still do a lot of the work myself. And it was almost like he knew that there was going to be a time. And then when he passed, we already had that relationship. She had already found an advisor that she felt comfortable working with and who would talk to her and listen to her and was there to do what the two of you did. And I just think that's so important for women and men to have that kind of thoughtful process about this.
And you know, David, Bruce would be so proud of you, Liz, where you are today, how far you've come since he passed, and how well you're doing on all fronts of it. You really have, I've seen you blossom and grow. You have reinvented your life. And you're doing great with your finances, too. So I know he's looking down and he's saying, you go, girl.
Yes, you go, girl. And the key part for our viewers, so that they can go, girls, is that you be thoughtful, mindful, engaged, involved, and do what these two ladies did, which is to be thinking ahead and deliberate about their finances. And I think that if they do that, they will be in a much better place. Yeah, well, thank you both for sharing. Liz, thank you so much for sharing your story. Of course, Kathleen, we love your work, and I'm a big fan.
Thank you for
So
this
thank you
opportunity.
both for being with me.
Thank you.
Okay, time for viewer questions. Our question today comes from Susan in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, and she asks, should I convert my Roth IRA to cash for an emergency fund? Maybe. Let me give you the rest of Susan's particulars. I'll read some of the other specific things to know in order for me to answer the question. Susan is recently retired. She's 65 years old. She's married. She has most of her money in IRA accounts, never been taxed yet accounts. And she has a home. It's worth about $250,000, and she has a mortgage of $100,000. She doesn't have much cash on hand. She does have a Roth IRA worth about $20,000, and she wants to know, since she doesn't have a lot of cash on hand, should she cash in that Roth IRA? Now, to answer the question, just as a side note, if you've had a Roth IRA for at least 5 years, you can cash it in and not pay any taxes, because a Roth IRA, one of the advantages of a Roth IRA is you get tax-deferred growth, and then you don't pay taxes on the gains as long as you follow the rules. And one of the requirements is that you've had the Roth IRA for at least 5 years. So her circumstances mean that she's not going to pay tax on the Roth IRA. So she's looking at it as, hey, this is a source of liquidity for me, because she recognizes, and I love this about her question or her recognition of the fact that she doesn't have a lot of cash on hand. So I love the idea of having a nice, fat emergency fund. Now, to answer the question, I'd probably need to know a few more things about her situation, but I'll make a couple of observations. Number one, a Roth IRA already can serve as a backup emergency fund. So if she doesn't have a lot of cash on hand, the Roth IRA is already an emergency fund behind her cash. So if she had an emergency, the question is, how quickly does she need it? If she needs it within a week or two, then she could probably cash in that Roth IRA, get the money, and satisfy whatever the emergency is. The second consideration is, how is she investing the Roth IRA? If the Roth IRA is invested in the stock market, and it was worth $20,000 was her Roth IRA, if the stock market were to drop like it did back in 2008 by about 40%, her $20,000 IRA would be worth $12,000, and if it's at that moment that she needs the cash, then the Roth IRA is not such a good backup emergency fund. You see, so if the need is quickly, and the need is to get that money and have the full value of that, what that $20,000 represents, based on that scenario or those parameters, I would probably say, yes, Susan, go ahead and liquidate some or all of that Roth IRA, put it in your cash bank account. I know it's not going to make any money on the cash, but still having that liquidity is great, because that means then it's less likely you'll need to pull on your IRAs, which are invested in the market and other things that go up and down, and you won't have to maybe sell when things are rocky, and you can get to the cash quicker than you could get to the IRA. And one more quick thought, she's got a mortgage, she's got a house worth a lot more. She might consider either refinancing, getting some equity out, or doing a reverse mortgage line of credit, or doing a refinancing of that mortgage with a reverse mortgage to free up that cash and use the cash she was paying into her mortgage to build up her cash account. So a lot of options for Susan. Glad you wrote to me, Susan. Thank you very much. And be sure to send your questions to me, because I can answer them on the program just like I did for Susan. One more thing before you go. It's easy to get twisted up and confused about how aggressive or how conservative be with your money when you're investing. And a lot of it is your comfort level. Can you sleep at night? But the other part of it, and this is something that really, over the last 20 years or so of doing financial work for clients, has really come into clarity and focus for me. It's a lot more to do with how long before you need the money that affects how you should invest it than your age or even retirement. You could be 65 years old, retired, and still should have a significant part of your money in the market, because your situation might be you don't need that money until later. So it's about proximity. Proximity to use is what determines, I think, how you invest. And not just whether it's in the stock market or not. It's how you invest and how you allocate your funds, how liquid they need to be, what you invest in, what type of commitments you make with the money before you know you can use it. So when I build plans for people, we look at how long will it be before they need basically every dollar of their financial plan. So when we look at the cash, we look at how much should be in bonds or stocks, mutual funds, how much should be put into a longer term committed to being, say, for example, in an annuity. How we make those decisions is based on how long before we need each of those dollars and where they're going to be. So Don't get caught up so much in your age or even your work to retirement. You may have an encore, what they call an encore career. You may have different phases of your life, but think of it in terms of how long before you're going to need that money, affecting how you invest that money. And if you do that, you'll plan stronger.
If you would like more information about the topics and our guests featured in this series, please visit our website at PlanStrongerTV.com. Also, if you have a question you would like David to answer, please send it to questions@PlanStrongerTV.com.